Hey Steelers Nation, welcome back. I'm Joe Rockey here discussing the actual draft picks that the Steelers could be considering and who would make sense for this team. Yesterday I went through a bunch of corners that the comments have thrown at me. And again, I'm going to be strictly going off of, for the next week or so, players you want me to dive in depth with. So leave me the comments so I can give you who you want to hear about. Because as I mentioned, this is lying season. Every GM is just trying to get an edge, see if someone can drop to him in the whole 9 yards. So I don't want to follow bases and stories that may or may not be true. I'd much rather give you who you want to talk about, who you want to hear. So leave me a comment if there's someone I fell through, a corner that I didn't talk about yesterday that you want me to talk about, or if there's a player on defense today that I'm going to talk about that you think I missed or you disagree with my takes. I'd love to talk about them and make them in depth with you guys. So with that being said, I'm going to start with Jalen Carter. Obviously, there's all kinds of off the field things with Carter. I believe, and this more so trust, that if the Steelers do draft Carter, they know it's all okay, and they have dealt with crazy people, Antonio Brown being the prime example. They don't normally deal with outright criminals. They're not dealing with Ray Lewis walks into a nightclub and comes out with a red suit. It's not happening. So when I look at the possibility of what Jalen Carter is watching the film, yes. I mean, in terms of the fact there's not very many people on the planet that are built like him, he is absolutely a freak. And he penetrates. He gets amazing pressure playing in the best conference, which is the SEC. And Jalen Carter on the field is, in my opinion, if not the best player in this draft, the second best player in this draft. So would I take him if he falls to us at our first round? Absolutely, no doubt. I'd run it up. Again, that is assuming that Tomlin has signed off on him. And in general, Tomlin's track record of dealing with problems and keeping them under wraps is incredibly good. So in Tomlin, I trust. And that's my answer about why whole draft board about realistic potential, Carter would be my guy. Penetrating defensive lineman, amazing need, fills the probability that if Cam does eventually go, which is inevitable, but it's not going to be this year, as I said before, he could be the next guy. And I just love the possibility of him. I don't love the situation happening. I mean, who does? But let's remember, who hasn't been scared out of their minds whenever something scary with the cops comes around as adults, let alone as college kids? So I'm not diving into the whole story with him. Again, I trust Tomlin's judgment one way or the other. If he's there and they pass on him, that's Tomlin saying it's not okay. But if he is and we bring him in, Steelers Nation, I'm not saying completely forget everything that happened, but don't dwell on it. Because Tomlin gets these things right. And again, no one is better on the field than Jalen Carter. And I would absolutely love to have him on our team. And I would absolutely love to see the fact that the weakness of this team, at least the part where you'd attack it, would be up the middle opposite of Cam Hayward. And if you take that off the field, well, then the fact that Ogunjobi and Leal basically gave you no pass rush last year doesn't matter anymore. Now you have a front four that is unstoppable. But again, all those upsides I talk about, there are plenty of teams ahead of us that could use the services of him. So there's a good chance he's not there. But again, if he is, Steelers Nation, I 100% propose him being Jalen Carter. Now, the next one that I think is a little bit more realistic, but I'm going to get a lot of pushback because of positional value and that key word we set out here. Drew Sanders from Arkansas is a middle linebacker who is an absolute intuition machine. This guy just is in the right place all the time. And I know I broke down in my middle linebacker episode that middle linebackers are one of the positions that take a very long time to develop. That's true. And it's because of the mental side of the game. Drew Sanders is one of the most polished middle linebackers mentally that I have seen basically in years entering the NFL. And there are plenty of players in the NFL now in their fourth year, Patrick Queen, that aren't even close to his level. So this would be nothing like drafting Bush. Bush did not have the I need to be here, I need to be there. Drew does have that. Now, is he going to be able to athletically sprint down the field and take everything off? No. But in a zone coverage package, he will be in the right spot to bring hell and deflect a pass. It's also why when you look at it, he has a below average yak against him compared to what you would expect, because he puts himself in a better starting position to shut down the pass. So when you look at that, that's a sign of being in the right spot and knowing what the right spot is. Drew Sanders, I mean, he's got the size, 6'4", obviously they're all 230, they're middle linebackers. But the point is that I would love to see him here. Yeah, he needs to put on some poundage, but that's what happens as you grow up. I mean, that's part of being in the NFL, you put the weight on. So realistically, he's going to be there. Unless something crazy happens and someone really reaches on him. Drew Sanders will be there. I think that when we look at the Steelers, he's the second realistic option that we could immediately see an upgrade with. He is better than both of the veterans that we just signed in here, and I do believe that he would beat both of them out in camp for the starting position next to Keon O'Neal. Because I do think that at the end of the day, we are going to basically run a one linebacker, three safety defense in general for the majority of the snaps. And with it being Sanders and Neal can take tight ends out of the game, and Sanders can do the rest of the zone coverage underneath. I think that it would give you a tremendous coverage linebacker that also gives you a little bit of pass rush that this team does not have. Quite frankly, he could be a really, really good asset. He doesn't play at all like Shazier or Bush. I don't want to try to say that he is, but he reminds me of a thinner version of Timmons. And as I said before, I think Timmons is one of the most underrated Steelers of the generation. And I think that this would be a perfect fit. I also think that both of those two picks are very Tomlin. Give me a leader on defense that we can build around for a while. And I know that you guys all just said you can't say that Jalen Carter's a leader with all the off-field stuff. He was the leader on that team. He on Georgia's defense on the field, he was. So when I look at all of this overall, those are the two that I would want to go with. And they're also basically none of your comments that you wanted me to break them down. I wanted to give you my takes on who we'd want to see and where we'd want to look at. Because once we get past Sanders, there's basically not a middle linebacker worth considering. There's just not. So take the position off the board. Maybe you take a reach at 49. Maybe it's a third round play. But there's just not there's not another quality that goes, wow, this guy will guaranteed be the starter on opening day. It's just not there. Now, when we look at D linemen, that's not quite the case. Because Brees from Clemson gives you a lot. He's kind of, I don't want to say the whitewash version. He's not quite as good as Carter, because Carter is like out of this world, amazing. But Brees is definitely number two. I mean, there's just no way around it. The guy is athletic. He is a beast. And he gets the job done. I mean, there's just no other way to say that. And I can hear people out there yelling, what about the guy from Penn State that they keep comparing to Aaron Donald? Yinzers. He ain't Aaron Donald. Kancey is not going to really be... I don't think he's going to be that good. I mean, I just put a point blank. I get that, we all want to see it. Penn State guy. We all love the Penn State guys. The results aren't there. I mean, he can move left to right, but that is not how you win in the NFL. You win in the NFL in the interior line. I'm not talking about the outside pass rush, but in the interior pass rush, you win with power. That's why Cam Hayward is so successful. That guy is a powerful freak. Kancey ain't. And given the size and the underweight of him, I don't see it working out. Remember, part of the reason Aaron Donald is successful and such a freak is because it shouldn't be working for him. He is too short and he is too light, but he makes it happen because he has the strongest and quickest moves that shouldn't exist for the interior defensive line. Aaron Donald is kind of like the way that Mike Tyson was when he was in his prime. He fought heavyweights with moves of a middleweight. And because Donald can bring all that on the inside, big fat guards just can't handle it. Kancey is nowhere near that polish. And to think that he will be, in my opinion, is a stretch. So when I look at this Steelers Nation, yes, D tackle's a need. I'm not fighting it. Kancey is not the answer. Kancey is at best Leal. I don't think he would beat Leal out. I know he would not beat Ogunjobi out. So when I look at this, why would I want to use 32 on a guy who's not going to play? Again, there are players out here who can be instant starters. And yeah, they might not be at the sexy cornerback position, but if I had my way, I would avoid Kancey. So all that being said, I hope that this was thought-provoking for people out there. Please let me know the individual players that you would want us to look at, especially in the second half of the draft. I can cover all the guys up front all day, but if there is a secret gem that you guys see out there, please leave me in the comments because I want to do all the deep dives. I want to dive into these players for you and make it valuable. Obviously, I will do it after the draft once I know who our players are. But if you hadn't have someone right now saying, ooh, I want to know more about him, let me know. So, Steelers Nation, I think it's going to be great. My opinion might not be the same as Tomlin's, and I'm going to break down as we get closer to the draft what I do believe the Steelers are going to do, but I'm trying to just give you a profile right now of this is where we're at. So you guys have a great rest of your day, and here we go, Steelers. Here we go.